Of Content and Commerce. Today I have myself, Brent Peterson, Isaac Morey from Content Cucumber, and our newest member is David Arago, who is a WordPress expert and a content expert. Isaac, why don't you start off, give us a quick introduction.
So I'm Isaac, chief editor of Content Cucumber. I help brands tell their story through blogs, emails, newsletters, and we're really excited to have David joining us. He's the new Spanish language host of the Talk Commerce podcast and also a longtime WordPress solutions expert. David, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Introduce yourself to the Talk Commerce and Content and Commerce crowd.
Hi, I'm David Arago, and as both Brent and Isaac have said, I have a lot of experience in WordPress. I used to work for a media company here in Minnesota. So, yeah, I have a lot of experience with media, the media needs, and as well as with WordPress. And hopefully I can make an engaging podcast in Spanish.
Yeah, awesome. And when you say here in Minnesota, you mean Madrid, Minnesota? Is that where you are right now? Because I don't think you're in
Yes,
Minnesota.
I am in spirit.
Okay. All right. So just the background, David lives in Madrid. He also lives part-time in Minnesota. He has it backwards where I live in the winter in Hawaii and the summer in Minnesota. He lives in we won't get into details, but today we're going to talk about content and commerce and actually, Isaac, kick us off with what we're actually going to talk about.
Yeah, today's topic is going to be optimizing your e-commerce store for the future of robots. And what we mean by that is specifically AI is going to play a bigger and bigger role in e-commerce stores and both in driving the traffic to your store instead of traditional search engines. And as technology advances a little farther, perhaps even in purchases, like B2B operations might begin procuring more and more of their wares through agentic buyers that are maybe scanning the market and finding the best prices, the best offers, the best fit for whatever they're buying, and so on. So we have both the traffic side and the conversion side. Optimizing to robots to AI is going to become more and more important. And we're going to tell you a little bit about our knowledge in that area today.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk specifically about Agentic. And I was at eTail a couple of weeks ago, and I did bring up the topic of Agentic, and I did a fireside chat with the chief digital officer at Edible Arrangements, and we asked the audience to raise their hand who's doing agentic commerce, and not one person. And we had a good sized room, a couple hundred people. So I do feel like there's a lot of hype and buzz right now in AI, and there's a little less boots on the ground, and actually people are doing it. David, I know that you have some experience already in sort of vectorizing data and large catalog media companies. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on where AI fits in.
Well, I think probably in specifically for e-commerce, I think AI could really provide a more interactive experience of shopping, right? I was playing around, for example, with this fake coffee shop, right? Where I could just tell AI, I created a chat, vectorized some test data, and then instead of just say, give me a coffee maker, I say, hey, give me a coffee maker that fit in this budget and is rated top 5, right? So on top of that, I can say, okay, can you also give me a list of the prices for the filters, whatever. So it could be like a more interactive experience versus just, hey, I'm looking for a coffee maker. This is the coffee maker. Well, maybe that coffee maker doesn't fit in my budget. So, yep.
Yeah, I think the interesting perspective that you add is if your experience was outside of the e-commerce space,
Mm-hmm.
and the company that you worked for was only about content and how important that content is, And I think one thing that we want people to understand is that content is just as important or more important in your e-commerce store, because that's what's bringing you people. Isaac, one thing that you've been really working on is the idea of AEO or AIEO, or maybe a song about a farmer. Tell us a little bit about some of this AI search engine optimization.
Yeah, so it's a fairly new concept that's becoming more and more important. Some people refer to it as AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. Others just say AIO, AI optimization. But the idea is, in the same way that you put content on your site to show up in search engines with traditional SEO, you also need content that thoroughly explains your products or your services for the sake of AI engines. So when people say SEO is dead in this world of AI, they're really missing a big point that people still look for and discover things online regardless of the tool they're using. And you need to make sure that you are thoroughly explaining the ins and outs of everything you have to offer, so that AI engines can find you too. And in a lot of ways, AIO or AEO is very similar to search engine optimization, because it's going to cover things like hitting your keywords, answering common questions, really just speaking about your offering and the way that people ask about it. But there are some special considerations in AI optimization as well, and we can get into those. But one that we could start with is speed. So Google and those algorithms focus on speed to an extent, like your site has to run well to rank well. If it's taking forever to load, it's going to hurt you in the rankings. But with AI, that's even more important, because ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever model you're using, when they're searching the web and crawling for an answer to a question, they don't want to leave their users waiting around. So they're going to pull those real-time searches from sites that load quickly. So making sure basically that every page of your site and your site as a whole runs well, performs well, and is fast loading is super crucial and becoming more important in the age of AI.
I think one thing I'd like to take away from that, there's probably a point in which the GPT that's crawling gives up on your site completely if you're loading in like 30 seconds. The other thing, David, I know that you had mentioned this earlier, that's interesting, is that a lot of companies are blocking the GPT crawlers while still allowing Google crawlers. Tell us why that is a big mistake nowadays.
Well, I would say that ChatGPT now probably is, it's just ChatGPT or any GPT is just another way to people to reach your website, your content, your product. So if you put blocks, then they are not going to reach you, right? Maybe you say, hey, I'm going to allow Google. Well, that's great, but what happened if somebody using ChatGPT? Well, they may not be using Google. So I think, like you guys were saying, the important part is that if your website is optimized, then, why block ChatGPT? Why block any of the other ones, right? It's just
Yeah. As a writer, I can definitely understand why people might want to protect their intellectual property and not want their creations to be training the model. But I also think those, like that data set and the stuff that they're able to pull from the internet is so vast that they're going to train and get better either way. And so you might as well ride that tide and help influence the training so that the things on your website are more easily discoverable and that they are influencing the training. And that's that's kind of like the landscape of online discoverability anyway. So it's like the best play you can make with the cards you have as a website is to make sure that you're showing up, because that's how more and more people are discovering things. And if you aren't there, you're simply not going to be findable as the search share moves more and more from Google to LLMs.
Yeah,
All right.
but I think to your point, really quick, Brent, I was going to say that, in my opinion, it's impossible to protect your data on the internet, right? It's like I can create a really quick crawler to crawl your website and take your content, right? So I think it's more important to just make sure that it's known that this is your content, right? Because people, if they want to get it, they want to get it.
Yeah, I think if you're giving it to Google, give it to GPT or Claude. That's just that's the reality, and I think that there's a miseducation in the terms of leadership on how that looks, and I think the whole generative AI has kind of spoiled the idea of what GPTs are going to be in the future. They're going to be our new search engines. I want to do this next short segment, and we have 4 minutes left, but I want each of us to give our experiment that we would like to try to make sure that we're discoverable with ChatGPT. I know what my experiment's going to be, but what David and Isaac, what kind of experiments could people be trying to get their get their content found in a GPT?
Go ahead, Isaac.
Okay, well, I'll talk about two things because the experiment side is a good question. I mean, I think one, just go and ask it. You know, me with Content Cucumber, for example, I could say, tell me everything you know about Content Cucumber, and that's already pretty interesting. I could ask follow-up questions. I could also try asking about, recommend some blog services, recommend some case study services, and see if I'm able to have it draw that up and like suggest Content Cucumber as a option. And you might especially want to try that in the temporary chat mode, because otherwise from all your training, like everything it remembers about you, it might, be biased and recommend your service just because you have told it so much about it. But besides experiments, and I know we're short on time, I also want to point out in your Google Analytics and tools like SEMrush, there's also an increasing amount of options to see what your actual AI-driven traffic is. And that can be more objective than the experiments that you're running because it shows kind of real world behavior. But yeah, with that, David, any additional ideas?
I was going to say that just try it. Like, for example, if I want to see if my website, if myself on my website is being picked by ChatGPT, I mean, just say, find me a WordPress developer in Minneapolis or in Madrid for whatever, right? And if I show up, but also, you have to be realistic too on set the expectation that obviously if I don't optimize much, if I don't spend much time on that, chances are that somebody else is gonna go ahead of you, right? And even if, for example, if I compete with Content Cucumber on writing, chances are that that Content Cucumber is going to be higher than me because they have more experience, they have more time, more content out there. They are viewed as an authority, and if you are the new kid on the block, right, it takes a little while. It's not a magic bullet. It's a holistic approach, like with SEO, right? It's exactly the same, it's just
right,
different.
And that kind of reminds me of when we first started and we were writing about our SEO services. Well, it was extremely hard to compete and gain visibility because you had all these SEO firms that had already been around for a long time. So with all of this organic type discoverability, it's a bit of a long game and a process because it's not like an ad that you just pay for it and you're on page one immediately. It's something that you build over time. But once you do build it, you'll have this evergreen organic asset that always drives traffic. And in the meantime, the content you create can be great for sharing with leads, for posting on social media, all kinds of other uses, just building your website out and having more material and education stuff in the meantime. So
just post your content everywhere, right? Isn't that very much?
So I'm gonna yes and both of you. I'm gonna comment on Isaac's idea of having to be there and then be consistent. We hired content cucumber in 2018 when I was with Wagento, and it within 6 months to a year, we were already ranking for the topics that we wanted to rank in, and that was during the completely organic times of content. So having that content is the number one most important thing. Google is ranking your content on the amount of time people spend reading it. I think that GPTs are going to look for content that is valuable for answers that to answer questions that people will have. So there's also two different approaches that both of them are going for. They both are super valid in everything you're doing. I want to yes and David, or David as I usually say. When you want to do your experiment, I think I saw a guy on LinkedIn who did an experiment with his LinkedIn profile, and he did a very long word play on it. So your long tail keywords that you're going to be looking for is your first place to start with an experiment. Think of something super unique, and then let's start publishing that over and over again. And eventually you're going to show up in all of the different, both search engines and also in the GPTs. So there's Claude and there's Perplexity, there's ChatGPT, there's a myriad of other ones that'll help you get there. So I would challenge our audience to do that experiment. And I would even say, hey, let us do it for you. We have a ton of writers that can help. We have human beings that write content now. And those humans in the loop can help you create that content to be successful. I'm excited now that David is going to start this Spanish-speaking Talk Commerce episode. So we're going to be talking to more and more Spanish-speaking content, or more and more Spanish-speaking both platforms, providers, and merchants that we're going to add as a channel for content for Talk Commerce.
And Brent has given me the go-ahead to tell Spanish jokes.
Yeah, and so I do feel like we have 3 minutes left. David, tell us one of your jokes in Spanish, and Isaac speaks fluent Spanish, and so maybe he'll laugh. Oh
man, that's you put me on the spot now. Oh jeez, I'm blanking out.
All right.
Next time, I promise.
All right, so as we close out, Isaac, just tell us your 2 words that you want people to learn or do about the agentic search engine stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess my 2 words will be 2 acronyms. I have AIO and AEO, tomato, tomato. They're both just referring to things you can do to increase your visibility on AI searches. And right now, that's mostly geared towards humans searching for things with LLMs. But a lot of the same concepts will apply as agentic buyers or agentic uses of AI grow. So just think about how you can optimize and learn about how you can optimize your site for AI.
All right, and David, last words?
Yeah, just throw another acronym there. Also, as part of all this stuff, also there is the new one. There is, I don't know if new one, but EEAT, right? That's another one. It's pretty much like SEO, like everything. It means show that you have experience, show that you have authority in a topic, and show that you are honest, that you are trustworthy. So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, and I'm going to close it out just by saying I'm going to do an experiment. I do a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn. My experiment is going to change in the name to be something more specific about the newsletter, and we're going to see how long it takes to get in. So today is August 28th. We're going to see how long I can get that now geared towards showing up in the search engines. And I know we're over, so thanks everybody for listening today. It's been such a pleasure. We'll see you next week.
Hasta la vista.